Okay, so the idea is just, I don't know, it's something like a memento. So show my grandkids or something who their great-great-grandfather was.
Oh, I thought you took one already.
I took one, but I forgot to record the sound. So it's just you talking.
Well, yeah, I am a hard guy to get talking.
Yeah, I know. Not as hard as you used to be.
But if you ask me a question, I can answer them.
All right. Tell you. Well, I'll fix it all. I'll edit it all up. Okay, well, just start off and just say, like, your name and your birthday.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Well, I was born in Thunder Bay.
No, your name and then your birthday.
You want to say?
Yeah.
I am Adam Zarecki. I was born Thunder Bay, Ontario, August the 1st, 1924. Well, that's Fort William then.
Okay. Well, yeah, you were telling me the other day you didn't have a middle name.
No, I don't have no middle names.
What was the line you used the other day?
Hey?
Well, why don't you have a middle name? It was a joke you told me the other day.
Yeah, I couldn't afford a middle name, I guess. In those days, people didn't have too many middle names. You know, the poor people, they were just Mike, John, Bill, or Pete.
Well, a name like Zarecki, I guess you didn't have to worry too much.
No, there wasn't that many around in those days.
A few more Zareckis now.
Like now, there's quite a few Zareckis around.
All right, so I was going to start with your family. Like, you knew your dad's parents, right?
No, just my dad's grandmother.
Your dad's mother, or your dad's.
My dad's mother, yeah.
Okay, what was her name?
Yeah, she came over here with the family into Canada. That's the way I know it, anyway.
What was her name?
My dad's grandma was, my dad's mother was Tekla.
Tekla, right.
Tekla.
So you grew up with her, or you knew her when you were young?
Well, yeah, young. She was, she lived with us till she died.
Great. Well, okay, what do you remember about her?
Well, she never could learn to speak English. She could understand a little bit, but she never, and she smoked too. She's a small woman, very small woman. Yeah, that's about all.
Did she live? How long did she live? How old were you? You remember?
Oh, I don't know age, but I was in my 20s when she died anyway.
Okay, well, she lived a good long life there. Maybe not to 94, though.
Yeah. She died here in Sulacout, in a hospital.
Okay. Okay, did you know, I guess you didn't know any of your mom's family?
No, my mother's, I had one uncle I knew good, and a couple of her brothers, two brothers. I knew them.
And what was their last name? What was her name?
Kudarawich.
Your mom's first name was?
Julia.
Julia, right?
Julia.
Okay. And she lived here in Sulacout too later, right?
Well, yeah, Winnipeg, Sulacout, like Ghost River is where we were raised.
Yeah.
We were raised in Ghost River until the war, and then after the war, everybody had moved around, and the kids were mostly gone, and we come to Sulacout.
Great. I was going to ask you about Ghost River. What do you remember about growing up in Ghost River? I mean, well, what was life like? This is in the 20s, 30s, early 40s?
Mostly fishing, and we were kids, running around. We had canoes to run around the lake with, a canoe, and trapping in the spring and fall.
How old do you figure you were when you started trapping?
Oh, pretty young. I started trapping like weasels. Heck, around, maybe I was 10 years old. 10 I guess, or so, around there.
You'd make little snares or something?
No, we had traps. And I trapped them along the Ghost River because there was a lot of old open fields, and they were in the fields after the mice, And that's where they trapped them. And that's all there was to trap too in those days. For animals, weasels and mink, muskrat, fox, and wolf. That's what all.
Good. Well, what's the earliest thing you can remember?
Earliest what?
Thing you can remember.
Earliest thing?
Yeah. Anything you can remember from when you were...
The time I first got drowned.
What was that?
In Thunder Bay. I was, I guess I got loose from the house. We were living in Thunder Bay at that time. And I was pretty young anyway. And I got away, and there's a river runs through the town, Thunder Bay there. We lived near it. And I had gotten away, and there was a bridge on there with made of boards. And boards were missing, and there was a hole there, and about maybe 8 inches wide and 6 feet long or so. And I climbed in that hole and was swinging back and forth on my hand. And the water was underneath me. And I don't know how I would have ever got up, but anyway, my mother started looking for me. And I seen her running up from the side street there, and she was running up there and grabbed me and yanked me out of there. That's one of the earliest things I remember.
So you were only in Thunder Bay for a few years, right?
Yeah, well, off and on, because my dad come to Ghost River to work, and they were laid off there, and then he went to shovel grain in Thunder Bay in the fall. And it was back and forth. And another time I climbed up a tree by the house we lived, and I fell out of it. I had a lot of mishaps when I was young.
Yeah.
I remember that. And another time I was running with a stick in my mouth. And I fell down, and the stick went into my cheek from my mouth. And my grandma was there, and my mother, they were, quite excited. But my grandma grabbed it and pulled it out. And that was it.
No doctor.
Never thought much of it till I see the time I see a kid with something in his mouth.
And what was your mom like? I didn't ask you about your mother.
My mother finally learned, at young she couldn't speak English either, at the start. But she learned, and when we went to school, we taught her the alphabet and all that. And she learned pretty quick to speak English.
Yeah. And she spoke what, Polish or Ukrainian?
Yeah, well, Ukrainian. But my dad spoke both Polish and Ukrainian.
Okay, and he's in English. So your dad came over when he was pretty young, right?
Oh, my dad came over before I was born.
No, your dad came over when he was pretty young. How old was your dad when he came over?
Oh, he came over. Oh, I guess he was maybe around 12 years old or 13. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
No, he never had a birth certificate.
Right, he was young enough.
Yeah, he never had a birth certificate.
So your mom was born over there too?
Yeah, she was born on the border between Poland and Austria, or Germany and Austria.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that area.
Yeah, those borders got redrawn a few times there.
Yeah. Yeah, and they came over, and they settled near Portage la Prairie. Right. The government gave them land,
Yeah, they were good.
And they went, but they couldn't make it go with the land. It was too rocky. Well, all the girls got married. They had a big family.
Okay.
And then the boys gave up the farm and went to work on the railroad.
in the city or whatever. All right. So what was your mom like?
Hey,
What was your mother like?
my mother?
Yeah.
Oh, she was a good mother. She was kind. Yeah.
Good. She lived into her 80s there too, eh?
Oh yeah, she's well in her 80s too, so she lived. Yeah.
Did she like Sioux Lookout? Or Ghost? Did she like the bush? She liked Sioux Lookout? Did she like Ghost River?
Well, her and my dad never got along very well, and they split up, after the war.
Yeah, well, your dad didn't get along with people too well, eh?
And nobody, he never got along. Nobody liked him very much. Yeah.
He was a tough guy, mean guy.
Well, he was kind of yappy, and he'd get mad at it quick. If anything didn't suit him, he'd get mad and violent.
Right. Well, that's tough to be around.
Yeah. And we were all quite scared of him when we were young.
I bet.
Yeah.
And what about like growing up in Ghost River? I mean, was there? I was going to ask about technology. Like, you remember getting a radio? Do you remember when radio came around? Or
yeah, I remember we got the radio. We were quite young because I was going to school then when we got the radio, and we got it for free. Koval gave it to my dad because Koval and my dad worked together at the mill in Ghost River in the early 1900s. They knew each other pretty good. Shorty Koval and my dad. And we got radio. And that was it. That was, it was a small town, Ghost River. About 20 kids, 18 to 20 kids going to school all the time.
different ages?
They went as high as grade 9 there.
And you tell me, what are your brothers and sisters' names?
Oh, my brothers. My brother was Bill and Michael. Bill the oldest, Michael the youngest brother. And my sister's Helen the oldest, and Joey, Josephine, her name was, they called her Joey. And Anne, the youngest, I think she was, in the family. Or Michael, one of them. I can't remember which one was younger.
Oh, your sisters are still alive, right?
Hey?
Your sisters are still alive? Two of them?
All my sisters are alive, just my both brothers are dead.
Both dead.
All my sisters are alive, yeah.
That's good. All right. You told me a story once, I think it was about your sister Helen, when she got sent away to Savannah Lake.
Yeah, when she was about 13, I guess. She was still going to school anyway, or 13 or 14. And Shorty Cole was hauling the pulp in Ghost River there, and we needed somebody for their hotel, like a maid, They always had a maid, do the beds and whatnot. So he come to my dad, and they were talking to Ukrainian there, and my dad said she's pretty young yet to go. Oh, he said, Shorty said, that's all right, that's one more mouth you don't have to feed. So she went to Savannah Lake and there and worked the hotel, and then she got married pretty young there to Tommy Everlock. She was 16, I think, when they got married. And they had a good family.
Yeah. It all worked out.
It worked out good for Helen.
A different life in those days, though, eh?
Yeah, it was a good move for her. It was the best move she ever made.
Huh.
They
don't do it like that anymore, though, man.
Because there was no education.
Huh.
And she had a good man for husband.
Yeah. That's good. All right, hold on. Let me reset this here. Yes, you sorry, I should repeat that.
And trapping, I had to look after the traps then.
But you finished going to school at 14? You got to go to school till 14?
No, we didn't go there. And I was there until I got a call for the Army.
No, but how many years of school did you do?
I was 14 when I finished school.
Okay, so you finished school there. That was all they had, right?
Up to grade 9, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Grade 9. And,
but you learned to read and write and everything else, so...
well, yeah, that's what all I learned. Read and write. I hated school. I liked to go out trapping or fishing and that.
You guys were playing hockey even in Ghost River.
Hey?
You were even playing hockey there in the winter.
Oh, yeah, well, we made our own rink, on the ice, on the lake. About 7 of us kids that played hockey.
And you had somehow got some skates?
And we'd come to Sulacud and play, or go to Armstrong and play.
No, you got your hands on some skates somehow there?
Hey?
You got some skates?
Skates, yeah. Oh, they were handed down from my brother.
Ah,
He had a pair of skates, and he left in the Army. He was old. He was called up early, right in 1940. He was called up. Yeah.
Did Bill go overseas?
No, and me or my brother never went overseas. Me, I was...
You enlisted in 1943, right?
43, I was called up, and I went to Thunder Bay and joined up. I joined up, you didn't have to join up, but I joined up anyway, for active service.
Right.
And, but there was a mistake in my birthday, and my mother had always thought I was born on July 11th. But when I got my birth certificate at a Thunder Bay's town hall there, or wherever they had there, I was born August the 1st. So, actually I was called up, when I was 17.
Wow.
Which was against the law. You can't call you up till you're 18.
Oh.
But it didn't make no difference anyway.
And you didn't go overseas, but then where did you go to Morden? You said in Meaford you were, and
hey,
you toured around a bit with the military there, eh?
Well, yeah, I got trained. I took all my training in that. I was trained for anti-tank weapon, anti-tank guns, and
well, that's where you lost your hearing then, maybe.
Hey,
couldn't have been good for your hearing. Those guns were loud as heck.
Well, they're pretty loud, but they didn't worry about you, I guess. The only thing they worried, if you were blind, they sent you home, or flat-footed. But I took all my training, and then I got hurt, there in training, and then they couldn't ship me overseas then, because you had to be A1 to go overseas.
Right.
And then the war...
Was it a Jeep crash or something like that?
I think you could be B or something. I forget.
No. How did you hurt? You got hurt in a car accident or something?
No, we were hauling guns.
Oh.
And when you got to jump out of the truck and set up the gun. The gun had the legs on it, about maybe 6 feet long. 2 legs.
Oh yeah, it must have been a big gun.
And the gun, no, it was only a 6-pounder.
Okay.
What do they call the 6-pounder? But that was the biggest gun they had for anti-tank at that time. Because a couple of years later, they made it a 20-pounder. Because there wasn't much good.
Right, they had bigger armor.
Yeah, shells bounce off like a hail, that's all. But anyway, I jumped out there. And you had to grab the leg, do this quick, grab the leg, hitch the gun, grab the legs, spread the legs, and get ready, set up, and fight.
Yeah.
And when I pulled the legs, the legs fell on me, and I was under the legs. They're heavy. And I guess that's how I got ruptured. That's how I think I did it.
Yeah.
And after that, the war was over anyway, about almost 6 months, I guess. So I didn't go. That's
that.
That was that.
And then, so you started guiding a little bit, or you were cutting in the bush before, I guess, and then you started guiding?
I used to guide with my dad.
I mean, you always loved the bush, right? Since you were a kid?
Yeah, I started, well, I go after I was 14, I go with my dad there to the summertime guiding and moose hunting in the fall, fishing in the summer. You know, whenever the camp had some tourists there. There's a tourist camp there in Dodds.
Right. And you always loved the bush, though.
Hey?
You always loved the bush. You always loved fishing and hunting, and you always liked to do that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, oh yeah, we used to set up tents in those days and paddle. No outboard motor. To the last. 43 we had an outboard motor. I remember that trip. That was the last trip I made before we went to the Army in the spring there. But that was it.
Well, you guys wouldn't have had much in Ghost River there either, eh?
No, you know, people live off the bush and garden. That's what it was in those days, you know.
Told me you remember getting an orange for Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas, we get a present from the school. That's the only presents we got. People were poor, you know, and they didn't celebrate Christmas that much, you know.
Right.
Celebrated with food mostly, you know.
You get an orange or you get something exotic?
Yeah, it's stuff like that, you know. You get food.
Good.
But, you know, all the people were in the same boat pretty well.
So did you ever decide you wanted to be a guide? Is that what you...
Well, that's all I knew, so I before I joined the Army, that spring, I left home and went to guide for my command at that time. I went there in, I guess in June. He wanted guides, so, you know, it's wartime, they showed him in. So I guided there till I was called up.
A few months later, then.
Yeah, 2 months later.
And then after the war, you went back there, right?
Yeah, I went back there after the war and guided there until off and on, but pretty steady till 1950, and I joined the railroad then.
There was lots of work in those days, I guess, eh? In the 50s there in Sioux Lookout?
50s, there was no work, just the railroad, you know. And guiding. My command had about 20 guides there.
Yeah, pretty booming spot.
He was the only big operator here at that time.
And the fishing must have been...
Oh, fishing was fantastic, and for bass and trout, muskie. Well, muskie not so much. They were always hard to catch, and they're still hard to catch. Yeah, but there was lots of fish.
You're saying old bamboo poles and...
Walleye and that, northern were... Oh.
But you were saying there, you know, you used old bamboo poles then, and what was the line even made out of?
Steel rods. Rods were first rod. I had a rod that my dad got for a tip from a tourist. 4-foot true temper rod, steel, and it's out main ring on it.
How long did you use that for?
Well, all the kids in Ghost River, we used it. We used that rod. Every kid in town used that rod. And my dad had it even 10 years after the war. He was using it, still using it when he died. He had it. And it sure lasted a long time.
So you met Grandma in the 50s, right?
Yeah, it might commence when I was working there, yeah. That's where we met.
Do you remember when you met Grandma?
Well, I was working there. Yeah.
No, but do you actually remember the moment when you met her?
When I seen her, sure. I remember the time I first seen her at the camp. Yeah.
And how did you get along at first there?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I don't want to...
Don't tell too much about... Well, what was your, you know... There couldn't have been too many...
That's where I met her, and eventually we got married.
Right. Well, you know, couldn't have been too many women around the tourist camp there.
Well, there was, I know, 4 or 5 girls always working. That's it too.
And she had, was there another Scottish lady there too?
Hey?
Was there another Scottish lady there too?
No, there was Finn lady cook.
Was that Grandma's friends?
Swedish. They were all, well, we all worked together.
Yeah.
In a camp, So that's the way it was.
But Grandma, was she good at making friends there? Was she always talking lots?
Oh yeah, everybody liked being with her. I mean, she was, I don't know, even after the woman until she died, people liked to go, they'd walk and go anywhere all over, Canada and there. Other women liked to be with her, I don't know why, but, she could talk a lot. Other women liked her. Got along well with her. She got along well with everybody.
Okay. All right. So, what other jobs did you do there? You went on the railroad in the 50s there, and that's when you moved to Sioux Lookout, right? Or you moved to Sioux Lookout kind of starting in the 40s.
Yeah. Well, when I was working on the railroad, I worked all over. When I couldn't hold a job here, I went to I was west, either Melville and Prince Albert and Brandon, all over Rainy River, Winnipeg.
You ever think of staying anywhere else?
Hey?
Did you ever think of staying in any of those places? Did you ever think about staying in those places rather than coming back to Sioux Lookout?
No, Sioux Lookout was the best place to work, on the railroad. And none of those towns, they weren't as good as Sioux Lookout in those days. They were farmer towns,
That's good. And then what other jobs did you have? You had quite a few other jobs there. Hey, you worked out at the air base, and you.
From the railroad, I went to the radar base. I worked there as stationary fireman. I don't know, 3 years, about 3 years or so, while the Americans had it. And when the Canadians took over, I got a job at, I quit there and got a job at M&R because it was right here in town.
Yeah. And then you retired. How old were you when you retired?
I quit. I didn't retire. I quit there. I was still, I guess, in my 60s.
Even younger, maybe. I don't know.
I can't remember exactly those things. Lynn probably knows.
Let me check on this here. I only got. And then,
I quit and took up trapping studies.
Well, I was going to ask you the places you lived. So you came to Sioux Lookout, and you moved around town a bit, and then you eventually ended up you bought the house on Front Street, or were you renting there?
Well, yeah. I was working at Mike Events there, and I gave my mother, I think it was $80 or something, 60 or $80 or forget. I forget how much anyway. Or it's around there anyway, around $50, $60 mark. And she had, a little bit of money, and yeah, I know, and she got, I guess, Helen, and we bought that house there, on Front Street.
What do you remember about living there? I mean, you got married there, right?
Well, I wasn't married then yet, but I stayed there off and on. Because we were renting another place there in behind Moscato's there.
And you would have been at the fishing camp still, I guess.
Yeah, well, I was there at the camp most of it,
Yeah.
but when I come down and slept overnight, well, that's where it was.
Well, okay.
And in the fall, when the season was over, and I worked on the radio, if I got, at that time I was worked in the summer at the camp, and in the fall we always got about 2 months work. The grain rush, to Thunder Bay. I used to haul the grain to Thunder Bay. Those from the 50s to 60s I'm talking about. And that's Well, we were.
But you say you always enjoyed, guiding and
Yeah, it was always.
hunting, fishing. So you always, you take your vacation or you take some time off and you do some guiding.
Yeah. Well, when I couldn't work in the railroad, I was guiding.
Right.
Or doing any other job I could get.
So you must have been, everybody, all the tourist operators must have known you by then, I guess, and you'd call them up and you could get work.
They called me you always. Anybody that was guiding, it was hard to get the fellows that knew the bush in those days, There wasn't that many, that took up. It's all a railroad town,
Yeah.
Any guys had, the guys that were with a good seniority, they worked about 6 months a year pretty well, And the older ones, and the older ones worked all year, But that's the way you worked any job you could get. That guy shoveled cinders, shoveled gravel, staked claims, everything. And then you could do.
I wanted to ask you about the bush a little bit more then. What did you like about, you'd go out with your brothers, I guess, a lot of the time, and you guys would drag a boat somewhere, or you...
Yeah, well, me and my brother used to go and trap beaver in the spring because we both didn't have no work. That's in later years, in the 70s, 80s.
But what did you...
Until I was working steady. When I was working steady, that's when I started at the radar base. That's when I had a steady job.
Yeah.
And then the M&R.
After that.
Prior to that, it was, like the railroad. And I was out of school a lot of times,
Well, what were all the things you used to do in the bush? You'd hunt, you'd fish, you'd hunt. You'd hunt for moose, you'd hunt for deer, you'd hunt for.
Well, you took tourists out, and they did all that. You just took them to where you went, all the post camps. Wherever you went, you took the tourists wherever they had their territory,
Yeah. And what things did you like doing most?
I don't know. I liked hunting a lot in those days. Hunting, duck hunting especially, for myself. I like duck hunting.
You always had dogs, right?
Oh yeah, I had dogs, treated them.
Help you with the duck hunting?
Yeah, we have. They're all lads because they could haul the ducks in for me. They were all good dogs. Yeah.
All right, we ask you about your kids then.
And all the kids grew up with them dogs too.
So it's I guess at some point my mom came and you decided you need a bigger house. I guess, is that why you ended up building this house?
I was playing poker one time, and we all played poker in those days, in the railroad with paydays, And this time when and that time I won, I think it was 80 something, 90 something dollars. And my dad had bought these 3 lots, at that time. So that's how I was able to buy this lot.
You bought it from him?
Yeah, he had paid for them, and I had given him the money. Whether I forget what the lot was, it was around $80, I guess.
And so
that's how I.
You remember winning the poker game? You remember that night, I guess, when you won? It was quite a bit of money then.
Yeah, there was a lot of money in those days. Right, $10. When you owed people in town, all the stores and that, you paid them on payday with $5 here and $5 there, $10 to there. The one that was bugging you the most. Yeah.
So that was a pretty good day at the poker table there.
That's how I ended up with this lot.
Okay. And so did you pick this one, or was one already taken?
The one there was the first one. He switched them.
That was originally going to be yours.
Yeah, because he built that house originally. Yeah.
Oh, this house was built first.
Yeah. Well, there was a shack over there, Bill.
Right.
He bought it first for Bill because the kids had to come here to school. and they bought that lot because it was a shack. And then when the whole three opened, they bought three. You know. In those days, you didn't have to build. You know.
You just buy it and build when you're ready.
Now you buy a lot, you got to build in a certain time.
Right.
And in those days, you didn't.
So it ended up, you got some money, so I guess you ended up with this one.
Yeah, then when I got married, I had to build a house.
Right.
So I built this house when I got married.
So you would have owned this lot for a few years before?
Yeah, about 2 or 3 years before I...
You had to save up some money and all that?
Till I didn't have the money.
That's good. Okay, so you had, my mom came along, or Auntie Carol was there. What do you remember about the kids there when they were young?
What do you mean, kids?
Well, your kids.
My kids are... I don't remember too much, about kids, because I was home away quite a bit, I was like, when you're on the railroad, you're in Armstrong overnight or Reddington overnight, and then you're here,
Well, what do you remember when they were born, at least?
Oh, well, sure you remember when they were born. I remember Lynn, right? Lynn, yeah. The biggest thing I remember is that Bill's wife took her to Ghost River to stay with her and Bill, for about a week in the summertime one time. They took her there. She was still in a carriage. That's the first, big thing I remember about her. And Michael, I was going duck hunting the day he was born. Duck season. So I stopped at the hospital, took a look at him, and then went duck hunting.
Found out you had a boy.
Yeah, that's Michael. That's the first time I remember.
And Carol was young when you came around too, right?
Yeah, Carol was 3 or 4 years old then.
Yeah.
It was Carol.
Did she warm up to you pretty quick?
Pardon?
Did she warm up?
Well, I knew Carol since she came here.
Right.
She came.
Right.
And everybody, she was the only little kid at the camp.
Right.
And everybody, petted her.
But she was pretty friendly too?
Oh, yeah. Carol was small. She was just walking when they first come here.
Just like Margot, I guess. About Margot's age there now.
Oh, no, she's a little bigger than that. She's a little bit bigger. I guess she was maybe 3 years old, 3.
Great. And so, building this house, I was going to ask there, what do you call it? I mean, it's one of those kit houses, right? You got everything from the Bay or Sears or something like that?
No, I got the lumber from Hammer Mill. They closed up their pulp camp. They had a sleigh load of lumber. And I bought it.
So how did you figure out how to build a house?
Hey?
How did you figure out how to build a house?
I just got the plans and follow the plans. Because I'm handy anyway, I'm handy at doing things, all kinds of things. It was easy for me to learn things, to do things like that, manual things.
Yeah.
I could see somebody do something, I could do it right away, pretty quick.
And so you pieced it all together, and I guess it worked out.
Yeah, oh yeah. He did a perfect job. But I built this one, and then in later years I built the one for Michael.
And my dad's garage there too, you had that.
Well,
smaller job.
He did a little shack, I hope he did. But,
did you like carpentry?
no, I didn't like the job, but I had to build, It's better to build than paying rent.
Yeah.
Taxes is cheaper than rent.
And so it must have been tough though. You didn't have a lot of money to.
Well, no, he didn't have money. I tore down buildings, the lumber camps that were, You know, when they finished lumbering, they left the camp, so I'd go and tear it down and take the lumber and this house. That's me. Not everybody had radio and working. Nobody could afford it. You you passed the bottle around when drinking, stuff like that. You know, it was very poor times, you know, during Depression and that. People live off like we were fortunate. We lived in the bush, you know, because we could live off, you know, fish and deer meat. And grew a big garden. We had a great big garden. And the berries. There was a lot of berries in those days. You know, you canned and grew everything pretty well. Yep. You didn't have to have much money to survive, you know. There were no taxes in the bush.
Yeah, so stay away from drinking and smoking
And people made their own fun too. You always had square dances on the weekends. And someplace there was a dance all the time. That's in the army too. We used to go to towns, but they always danced on Friday nights down east. I don't know why Friday night.
instead of Saturday.
It was Friday night, it was dance night in all those small towns down there, you know, in that area, Perth and Barry's Bay, and all those small towns there. We used to go to. Yeah. Smith Falls there.
Smith Falls, Iron Prior.
Oh yeah, Iron Prayer. Yeah. Yeah, we used to go to those that had dances mostly.
Any fishing advice? Any advice on how to catch fish?
How to catch fish. Today you got electronics, you don't need no advice.
Oh man, I see they got fish finders now. You can set it to follow 10 feet and it'll follow the shore like 10 feet depth. Yeah, technology.
No. But when I was learning fishing, you didn't have to learn. There was so much fish that you didn't have to. All you do is just threw the hook out and dragged it behind the canoe, and you got a fish in no time. Fish was all over. There was lots of fish.
Where we were sitting at the chutes today, there were a lot of boats going through.
And unbelievable. You can't even imagine how much fish there was in those days. But once they started the highways, you know, bush roads and camp roads, you know, that didn't take long to get it to where it is today, which is not great fishing in my estimation, from what I seen.
Right.
No matter what lake you went to in those early days, fish is not stopping. And you didn't have to have your minnows.
Well, you played hockey even when you were a kid. Who was your
Who
was your favorite hockey player there all the time? Who was the best?
It's a funny thing about hockey with me. Well, I mean, like Broda was my, when I was growing up, you know.
Turk Broda?
Turk Broda, yeah. He was my Maple Leaf idol, or whatever you want to call him, you know, guy you cheered for or whatever you did when you were a kid. Anyway, when I was playing hockey, I played hockey in the Army every winter. And the game I played against Broda. Yeah. And one time I was scrambling in front of the net, you know. You know how it is when you get a bunch of guys. In those days, hockey was not like it is now, you know. Guys scramble now and you had these wooden sticks and that. And anyway, I scrambled and I got the puck and I'm maybe 4 feet away from the crease, you know, edge of the crease. Guys all around, you know, fighting, you know, pushing. I'm a small guy, and you know, I'm kind of under them guys, you know. And I got the puck there, and I'm opening, but I can't get no opening, you know. And all of a sudden it opens, Broder laying across the goal mouth, you know, right across the goal mouth. And I could see him there, and I couldn't too close to shoot, you know. This way, you know. You had to flip the puck to get over him. So I backed up a little bit and flipped the puck, and the puck was going in the net, and up comes his foot and kicks it up. And that was my
He wouldn't let you have one.
no, and I looked at Broder in his face, and he was smiling, you know, he was laughing.
Hello? Hi. Okay, we'll come home here now. Okay. Right. I interrupted in the middle of that one. Well, all right, that's Andrea telling me to time's up.
Yeah, okay. What time is it now?
I don't know what time it is now.
What?
Oh, 3 o'clock. Looks like bang on there if you're watching.
3 o'clock. Yeah, I gotta get my gas.
Yeah, you get your gas. We'll send someone back, or I'll come back there and pick you up for dinner.
Yeah, pick me up at around 5:30 or whatever.
Yeah, maybe a bit earlier there and play with the kids.
Or